What's going on, guys? It's CoolCraft567, and today I'm giving you guys a video overview of my helmet setup. This is going to be covering everything that I run on it, including the night vision recording system, the helmet itself. So hopefully I can give you guys some information of what I'm currently running. This is kind of going to be an update video to my last helmet overview that I made a while back. So a lot has changed, as you can tell. So let's get into this. So starting off with the helmet, this is an OpsCore carbon helmet. I recently had a OpsCore XP helmet, and I like that. I like the helmet a lot. Just that I didn't really necessarily need a ballistic helmet with the added weight. I decided, it was better just to sell it, pick one of these things up, especially considering that you can pick these OpsCore carbons up for pretty cheap nowadays. So luckily I was able to get a good deal on the OpsCore carbon. Now, like my OpsCore XP helmet, I had an OpsCore cover on it, so I definitely wanted to do the same thing. When I sold my XP, I sold it with the cover, so I wasn't able to get the cover up until now. So this is a medium large helmet with a medium OpsCore cover. This is just going to be the high cut cover, not the super high cut cover. So if you're interested in doing something similar like that for yourself, those are going to be the settings. So I would try to buy size down if possible to try to match the helmet with the carbon if you do decide to do that. But if you have just a regular XP or a ballistic helmet, just follow their sizing. Going over to the suspension system, I haven't really done much in terms of the suspension system. It's still just the traditional octile with the traditional pads. I don't really have a need for the worm dial. I was looking into the worm dial because I had it on the XP and it was pretty comfortable, but it wasn't really worth $200. So for the time being, I probably won't change out the pads on my OpsCore carbon. So let's go over the night vision system that I'm currently running. These are PVS 15s. If you saw my previous video, I had two 14s on a bridge mount. Now, luckily I was able to get rid of those and pick these up, but the dual 14s had some advantages over these PVS 15s. Mind you, the 14s were a little bit heavier. Now, one of the ways that the weight got kind of reduced was you were able to fold them to the helmet, kind of tuck them away, and for extended periods of time, that weight wasn't too much of an issue. Now with the 15s, there's not really much you can do in terms of folding them. That's as much as they go, and that's not going to really mitigate too much of the weight. Now, the 15s are, again, lighter, but just for that simple fact, these things stick out a lot. And when you enter a room, the first thing that might actually enter that room are going to be the nods, especially if you're going to peek a doorway or something. These 15s might get seen before you do, so that's just something to be worried about. But I'm pretty happy that I did pick up the 15s over the 14s. Now let's go over some of the features that the 15s do have. These do not have manual gain, unlike the 14s that I did have. So they do tend to be a little bit more bright than traditional 14s. Now, I kind of get away with the brightness, and I'll show you that in a second. But let's just go over the settings. Here we have this on setting. Now, if you don't know about the 15s, you have two on settings. Here we have this setting where this is going to be on when they're down, and it's going to turn off when they're stowed up. So, for instance, you're running from outside where it's dark to a bright inside area. This might be a more useful setting for you, where you don't have to be constantly messing around with the buttons. You just stow it up when you need it to, stow it down when you need to. So again, this is on and this is off. Again, moving over to the settings, here you have a more traditional on setting right there. Now that's going to be just constant on, so that's on right there. That's on still. And then here we have the IR illuminator. So you pull it out and then you rotate it up, and then that's going to be your IR illuminator. So this is the IR illuminator right there. You flip this up and it's almost like a magnifier, and it's actually really bright. It's almost kind of like a more of like a low powered weapon illuminator, but again, I'd probably choose weapon illumination over this, but it's still a nice feature just to have. So I'm just going to turn that off right there. So going over to my arm, this is a Wilcox L4 G24. This is their newer gold color. I'm a huge fan of that color. A lot of people prefer the old color, but I think the old color is pretty ugly. You have multiple forms of adjustment. Here you have You adjust it right here. This is going to be the horizontal adjustment. Here you're going to have the vertical adjustment where you undo that right there and go up or down. And then you have your tilt adjustment right here. And these things are all, you can actually tighten these down. So if you actually want to be able to do this a lot easier, you can adjust it with Allen keys, and it includes the Allen keys, so you don't have to worry about that. So luckily, depending on how your face was formed, you can kind of set that to the perfect position for your eyes. Now, I had the IMVG previously for a dual tube setup, and that was all right for a single tube setup. But you know, for dual tubes, I would probably always recommend the L4G24 over the IMVG for dual tubes. Here we have a Wilcox lanyard, and this is actually broken, I'm gonna be completely honest, but I'd be damned if I wasn't gonna spend 60 bucks and not put it in a helmet overview. So that's gonna be sent hopefully soon to be fixed. But here we're just gonna show you. You attach it there, and then connect it to your helmet, and then voila, if anything happens, let's say you decide to attach the breakaway on your helmet, and these things snap off, hopefully it gets caught by the lanyard, but don't really expect it because this thing is pretty flimsy. So I'm just gonna stow that back up and hold it so it doesn't fly out, and everybody makes fun of me for it in the video. Now, one thing I forgot to mention was the OpsCore shroud that's included with the helmet. Now, if you tend to get into night vision, you start to get into better helmet setups. A lot of people tend to purchase a OpsCore base jump as their first real helmet. And don't get me wrong, the OpsCore base jump is a fantastic helmet, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that has a molded shroud. That's not going to have a removable shroud. So, you know, that's going to be fine for pretty much anything. And that's not really even a necessity to even change that out or to do anything with the removable shroud, with the molded shroud. But once you do get a removable shroud, especially one that's as high quality as the OpsCore one, you tend to appreciate what this thing could do, just what it can do, the different features, and the kind of the looks to it. So that's nice. So I just wanted to touch up a little bit on that shroud. Now, one thing I did forget to mention on the helmet cover was, you know, when you do install the helmet cover, you kind of have to cut the holes for it yourself. So that was just kind of a funny thing, I guess, to kind of just tell you guys about that. So when installing the helmet cover, you have to cut the holes yourself for the shroud. So going over to the right side of my helmet, we have my recording system. Previously, I had a Mohawk made by Mohawk, and don't get me wrong, that was an okay setup. Now, it did have a couple of redeeming features, but I would just have an issue constantly with it, where I would import the footage to my computer and I would get a missing camera error code, and that basically rendered the footage useless. Now, there was a couple of workarounds to that, but you know, I just got so frustrated with it, I kind of decided, you know what, I'm not too crazy on this. This is being sold, and I kind of did that. I kind of do regret it a little bit, but with this solution that I did come up with in my previous gameplay video, now I was able to kind of record with the dual tubes and get a really good angle, so I'm really happy about that. So for the time being, I'm probably going to keep this setup. Now, this is a Contour Plus 2. Now, there are some drawbacks with this. For instance, it only takes a 32 gigabyte card. I know Contour went bankrupt, and I think they were bought out, but I feel like somebody should have, I feel like Contour should have came up with an update to get rid of that 32 gigabyte card limit, because even when the time this thing came out, 32 gigabytes wasn't really a lot. And the Mohawk, I was able to put a 200 gig SD card. I didn't have to really worry about that running out of batteries. The Mohawk, I was also able to put CR123s, so that was a really neat feature, because you basically, as long as you had CR123s and memory cards, you can record. These things take proprietary batteries. Fortunately, these batteries are removable, but you're going to be limited to how many 32 gigabyte cards that you have. So that's kind of a drawback, especially where you can get, I think now, 400 gig cards. I know they go pretty high up there. I haven't really kept up with that, but it's just a drawback that this thing's only going to take 32 gigs. So that's mounted to a arc rail adapter right there. And the angle does look a little weird, but I assure you this is probably the best angle I was able to come up with, especially because I can get everything I want to in view. I don't really have to worry about anything. Again, this is going to be inverted. I flipped the lens over too. This has a rotating lens if you're not familiar with contours, so I don't have to worry about that. Here it's just corded down, so if anything happens, it's not going to fly off on me. Here we have some grip tape, and that's going to have some Lexan. Unfortunately, when I bought this, the buyer neglected to mention that it was cracked in the front, but it doesn't affect anything, so I don't really pursue that issue too much. Going over here, we have my Princeton Tech MPLS right there. This is going to be a light system, a helmet light system that has a bunch of different features. For one click, you get red, and I use this most of the time as a dead light. You know, just kind of flip it up there. Click it twice, you have a dim white light. Now, if you click it once and it turns on, you hold it. Here you have a really bright white light, and if you just click it on and hold it without letting go, after a few seconds, it's a IR light. Hopefully, if I remember to edit it, you guys can see how that IR light looks. If not, that's not too much of an issue. Take CR123 batteries, and it's pretty powerful for what this thing is, especially in a dark environment. So you just have to be a little worried that you might wash yourself out using that. Here we have a IR patch right there. And that's going to be it for the left side of the helmet. So now we move on to the last two things I'm running on the helmet here in the back. Here we have an EOG counterweight and multicam arid. I might swap this out for a multicam counterweight, but I probably won't because multicam arid is the best camo out there at this moment. These are going to be lead weights. It's going to come with about 2 pounds of lead weights that are extremely easy to mold, so you can just kind of fit them to the structure of your helmet a lot better. Velcro in the back, so again, you can just mold that to your helmet, press that on there, and you're not going to have to worry. When I did run this one time without these, without this like shock cord system I came up with, this thing was like right there, almost falling off, and I didn't even notice. But you know, I ran some shock cord, ran a couple clips right there, and then just attached them straight to the arc rail, and I don't have to worry about that coming off. You know, that's going to be rock solid for no matter how many hours I put on this thing. Going up here, we have a Hellstar 5. Now this thing has a couple settings on it. Here you have the blinking green and blinking white. Now I've thought about putting a strip of red tape over it so I could kind of effectively use it as dead rag, but the fact that it blinks green kind of like halts that idea, but I might come up with something in the future. Here we have just a constant green, that's going to be the second setting, and hopefully if I remember to edit this in, here we have the IR strobe system on the Hellstar 5. So guys, this is it for my updated helmet setup. It's been a while since I posted an update, and I don't really like to try to do updates unless, you know, something major comes in or I basically change up a lot of what I'm currently running with. So hopefully this guy has been able to give you guys some ideas of what I'm running, hopefully give you guys some ideas of what you could be running, or, you know, stuff of that nature. Any questions or comments, leave them down below, and thank you for watching.